Unfortunately, the travel industry is often prone to attract scamsters. Because if you think about it, it's one of the few purchases you make where you can pay out a large sum of money. It's generally considered probably the biggest spend of the year unless you're going to buy a house or a car. And then you don't receive anything for sometimes months after that. So that is attractive to fraudsters.
Hello and welcome to the Cost of Living newscast from Kent County Council. In this episode, our journalist Elizabeth Matsangu is speaking to Trading Standards Officer Wendy Mae and Sean Tipton from ABTA, the Travel Association, about holiday scams and how best to avoid them. For more advice and tips, click the subscribe button below, follow Kent County Council's public protection or business advice accounts on social media, or sign up to receive scam alerts or business bulletins by email. Links below.
Hi, Wendy and Sean. Thank you for joining us today. So, Sean, can you tell us, how do individuals know what type of holiday they have booked and what protections they have in place?
The two most common types of holidays that people will go on are, first of all, package holidays, which is mostly sold by ABTA members who I represent, but also independent travel arrangements, where basically you're not booked on a package. So how can you tell the difference between the two? Well, first of all, if you're booking a package holiday, you'll buy it from a tour operator, and they'll always be very upfront and say to you, we are selling you a package holiday. It's something that it's a good selling point for them, bluntly, because actually you have a lot of extra protection if you book a package. But if you go out and you go, say, let's say directly to an airline or through a booking site where they're just selling accommodation only, and you've made, in effect, you're making your own arrangements, it's called independent travel arrangements, that's just that. That's an independent arrangement. It doesn't have anywhere near the same level of financial protection. The main thing for you to make sure that it's still a package is that it has to include some form of transportation, usually a flight, plus something else, usually accommodation. That's a classic package, but it doesn't have to be a flight. It can also be, let's say, coach travel or train travel. So as long as you have those two elements together and it's sold at one inclusive price, that's a package.
And Wendy, how can people avoid getting scammed when they're booking a holiday?
Research is key to avoid being scammed. Give yourself time to make an informed decision. Scammers will often want you to make a quick decision so you don't have time to consider all your options. Check the business on Companies House, look at their website to see what they offer and compare this with other websites. Check review websites. These are not always 100% accurate, but they do give an indication. Always use a secure method of payment. If you're asked to make a bank transfer outside a website, this is likely to be a scam, and always use a secure card payment. If possible, use a credit card, as when making purchases over £100 and up to £30,000, even if you only pay part of it on your credit card, you'll be protected under Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Act. And try to book direct with established hotels or tour operators, and look for businesses that are ABTA or ATA protected, as this is a clear sign they're a legitimate and good business.
Sean, what are someone's rights if they have flight delays or cancellations?
If your flight is delayed over 3 hours, then in many cases you are due compensation. It will depend on the reason for the delay. Having said that, if it's caused by something which is outside of the airline's control, such as bad weather, or a strike which isn't by their own staff, then no, they don't have to pay you compensation, but they do have to look after you. They have to provide you with drinks and refreshments. If it's a really lengthy delay, if you end up being stuck overseas for a night or two, as long as the flight is with an EU-based airline or you're flying back from the EU, then they actually have to pay for your hotel as well. If your flight is cancelled, if it's less than 12 days before you're due to depart, again, if it's something which is within their control, they have to do, first of all, get you an alternative flight. And again, if the cancellation's been within a short period of time, less than 12 days, and it's their fault, in effect, they have to pay you pretty substantial compensation as well. And that money is pretty substantial. Now, it's in euros because it was an EU regulation. But if it's a long-haul flight, it's 600 euros compensation. You can either look on our website, abta.com, which will explain exactly what the rights are depending on why the problem has occurred, or the Civil Aviation Authority. It's fundamentally, they're the body that polices these regulations. So if you feel that you're not being treated properly, then the airline has to sign up to a thing called an alternative dispute resolution scheme, which they will just Google that for the airline. It will refer you to a body will help you. But if you're not getting anywhere there, it's the Civil Aviation Authority. So if you find you've been delayed or you've had your flight cancelled, you have pretty good rights.
And what can they do if their tour operator goes bust? Do they get a refund, for example?
The package travel regulations said that travel companies selling packages had to offer financial protection in case they went out of business. So that's the first thing. You will definitely get your money back. If you're stuck overseas, the other side to that is you need to be got home. So if it's a package protected by ATOL, it's Air Travel Organizer License Scheme run by the Civil Aviation Authority, because all packages for flights are covered by them, they will get you home. Also, if your hotel hasn't been paid for and you're overseas, which is often the case, they will issue a guarantee to the hotel saying, we'll pay you, which most hotels will accept. If the package does not involve a flight, most do, but not all do, that's where ABTA comes in. The majority of tour operators selling packages without flights, let's say coach travel or rail travel, or indeed cruises, because believe it or not, cruises are classic floating package holidays. They're nearly always protected by us, ABTA, and we take exactly the same position. We'll make sure you get your money back if you're due to travel, but if you're stuck overseas, we'll get you home, and you shouldn't have to pay out any more money. So that's a massive protection if you book a package. If you've made your own arrangements, those protections simply aren't there in that way. For example, if your airline went out of business and you hadn't booked it as part of a package, then you would have to make your own arrangements to get yourself home.
So what should someone do if their holiday isn't as good as what was advertised?
So if you, let's say, turned up at a hotel and there were supposed to be 3 swimming pools there, they were there, but none of them were operational. And that was one of the reasons you booked the holiday, because they said they would be operational. Then yes, if it's a package, you should contact the tour operator immediately. Say, look, this isn't good enough. And they will then have to move you. If they can't resolve the matter to your satisfaction, and that usually they can, but not always, then to get evidence of what's happened, take pictures, speak to other people. And then it's when you get back to the UK, it's a question of then pursuing a complaint for compensation. If it's a misleading advert and it's an ABTA member, if the brochure is actively misleading, I would also strongly encourage you to contact us. If it turns out, though, that the company is not an ABTA member, because a lot of travel companies aren't, then you need to go through trading standards actually for that. Speak to them, because they do a great job making sure that all companies don't mislead people in a whole number of ways, and that includes through advertising for holidays.
Wendy, what are the most common travel scams out there today?
Visa scams are something that happens. Certain countries require visas for travel, like America. I was there in the summer and we have to fill out the ETSA visa. And you can get this direct from the US Customs and Border Protection site for about £25. However, there are other sites that appear genuine and legitimate, and they offer the service of obtaining the visa, but they charge much higher fees. Now, they do get you the visa, but you're paying a lot more than you need to. And it's important to research any site you're using to ensure it's legitimate. Ticket scams is another one. Be wary of people approaching you with tickets to sell, claiming they can get you discounted rates or queue jump. You'll find you'll purchase tickets for things and they'll be fake or invalid, and the seller nowhere to be seen and your money is gone. And some of these sellers even go to great lengths of dressing officially, so always buy tickets from official ticket booths or windows. And again, be wary of rental scams, whether it's a jet ski in Thailand or renting a scooter in Mykonos. The old scam of you damaged it, you pay for it is universal. You hire the vehicle and upon return are met with demands for payment for existing damage. They hold your passport, the police will be called. So before hiring any vehicles or equipment, inspect it, take photos, and make sure you've shown the hire operator as well. These are just a few examples of things you may come across. And I can't stress enough that prior research is the best protection for not falling for scams.
And Sean, what travel scams do you come across at ABTA?
Unfortunately, the travel industry is often prone to attract scamsters. Because if you think about it, it's one of the few purchases you make where you can pay out a large sum of money. It's generally considered probably the biggest spend of the year, unless you're going to buy a house or a car. And then you don't receive anything for sometimes months after that. So that is attractive to fraudsters. The 2 most common types of fraud we see are airline tickets or accommodation supplies, particularly posh villas in the summer. The key warning signs are always companies with lots of availability at really busy times of year, let's say 20% cheaper than everybody else. They're not stupid. They're not going to charge you 50%. People will think, oh, that's a bit strange, but 20% off constant availability, it's probably a scammer. And the next thing they always do is pay us by bank transfer. And it's into a private individual's account almost always, because as soon as you've done that, that money's gone. If you are unlucky enough to be scammed, though, because they are pretty clever the way they do it, always contact the police, get the tell action forward what has happened, because they can't always catch these people, but they can shut them down.
Could you tell us a little bit more about ABTA's code of conduct?
It was just a way to ensure that our members offered the best possible standard of service to their customers. So actually, most of them are quite happy to follow it. It's not something where we say, you're not doing your job properly. It's quite the reverse. If they follow it, they will be doing their job properly. So it really helps them run an efficient business, and it covers all of your rights as a member of the public. So automatically, they won't be breaking any laws. And there are lots of laws that affect the travel industry. However, if something does go wrong, then the code will then come into force in a different way. We will take action against that member. We can fine them quite substantially. And if a company has really, really done something unforgivable, we can throw them out of ABTA. We don't have to do that very often, because the very point of joining ABTA is these tend to be reputable travel companies. But every now and again, one or two does something which is unacceptable. So the code is there for you as a member of the public to protect you. And we work very closely with Kent County Council trading standards as well. We have a thing called a primary authority relationship. So this arbitration scheme is not run by us, it's offered by us, it's run independently to make sure everybody can see that, we're not taking anybody's side on this. And it's cheaper and a lot quicker than going to the small claims court, which is your only option, generally speaking, if you book through a non-ABTA travel company, if you've got a problem that you just can't sort out with them.
We can't take action without your reports. We need everyone who comes across them to speak up and report scams and criminals. Even if you've seen a scam many times before, your reporting can help us target our resources and warn and protect others. If you have information on doorstep criminals, counterfeit, fake or illegal goods, illicit tobacco, loan sharks or underage sales, contact the charity Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. You'll stay 100% anonymous, always. To report scams and get advice on consumer issues, call the Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline on 0808 223 1133. Thank you for helping us protect Kent from scammers and criminals.